Your number 3 film is also on my list. This is another Kevin Costner flick. This is Field of Dreams.
Yeah. Do you ever have films? I have a few that they come on, you watch them. Goodfellas is one of them. The Godfathers. There's certain movies that, I got to watch this because Field of Dreams is one of them on my list. This is the most creative movie. But it's basically a story about a guy that had a contentious relationship with his father, and his father died young, and it's how they reunite and what happens. And in this movie, the acting is phenomenal. Timothy Busfield steals the film in his role as Amy Madigan, who plays Costner's his brother, right? I wish I knew the line, but what this theme of this show that you have on today is baseball. And James Earl Jones has the greatest line when he's trying. Kevin Costner builds a field. He gets rid of all the corn he has, which is his job. Which he's a farmer, right? And he builds a baseball field because the voice tells him, "If you build it, they will come." And then one day, all these players from the past, Ty Cobb, not Ty Cobb, but Shoeless Joe Jackson, a lot of players that played in that era that are ghosts come and play on this field. Only he could see it. His wife could see it. His daughter could see it. And then eventually it develops into a relationship with, I can't get into the story with James Earl Jones, but he goes on a hunt because these voices tell him to go around the country and find people that have a relation to this field. James Earl Jones, maybe you could tell the audience that line when it says something like, "Ray, don't sell this field," because he's losing money. He can't make a living, and he's about to get foreclosed upon. And he's trying to tell everyone, "Hey, there's baseball players out there. No one could see him." And James Earl Jones goes, "Don't sell this field because baseball marks the time. It reminds us of what was good and what will be good again." And that's the theme of baseball, and that's what I took from this movie.
It is one of the all-time great speeches in a movie. It is one of the all-time great James Earl Jones speeches. And just to say how big this speech that James Earl Jones has in Field of Dreams, this is a speech that was performed by Vin Scully. And Vin Scully recently passed away, but this is a speech that Vin Scully redid in Vin Scully's syrupy, caramelly sweet, all-time great voice that he even resaid multiple times. And I remember when Vin Scully passed away, one of the things they were showing was Vin Scully reciting James Earl Jones' speech from Field of Dreams. It is an all-time, it's people will come, Ray. People will get in their car. It's that whole thing. It's quotable, it's relatable, it's magical, and it's James Earl Jones being James Earl Jones without the Darth Vader sound effects. So this is James Earl Jones as his character, but it's him fully embodying the role and seeing it and being the persnickety old guy who's no longer the true believer that his character was in real life, based off a real life actual author back in the day that they quote from the 60s and all that kind of stuff. And
Terrence Mann.
Yeah, Terrence Mann, based off of an actual, I forget who it was, but he was actually based off a real life philosophical leader of the 1960s. Sure. And the fact that he is the guy who no longer is the true believer, he's no longer the guy who's trying to fight the fight. He just wants to be left alone, and Kevin Costner's character goes and drags him back in. And the fact that after that big, huge character arc, his character makes this speech in only the way that James Earl Jones could do. It's brilliant casting anytime you put James Earl Jones in something, but this is an all-time casting great decision.
There, of the 9 films that I have, 7 I've seen in the theater. One that's coming up, I was too young, and then another one was on HBO, which was 61. There wasn't a dry eye in the theater when Kevin Costner's voice breaks and says, "Dad, you want to have a catch?" And you'll know what that means. You have to see this film. I'm sure most of your audience has, because it has such a brilliant ending about a man that's able to have redemption with if you've ever had some contention with your dad, some of us have, and he's able to have a resolution and closure. And that's what the film's about. Sometimes films where baseball is involved in the film, but it's about a love story.
Yeah, and I think, I think a lot of, and this goes beyond baseball, but I think a lot of sports movies in general have a lot of in order to bring in the non-sports fan, I think producers and directors stick in non-sports stories into sports movies to make them more relatable to a larger audience. And I think in general that's a detriment to the film and a detriment to the sports story being told. But in this case, the stories of redemption for James Earl Jones and the father and son dynamic being told about Ray and his father enhances the baseball. It doesn't take away from it. It doesn't distract from it. It's not one that you go, well, yeah, it's a baseball movie, but really it's about something else. This is one where baseball and the family story is so intermingled. It's so intertwined. And even the whole whispered, build it and he will come, build it and he will come. Even that whole thing.
You obviously have us on your list.
Yeah.
Did you not get that certain feel of just purity between the character of Shoeless Joe Jackson, by the way, played by Ray Liotta, rest in peace, one of my favorite actors of all time, and his relationship with the Ray Kinsella character played by Kevin Costner? There was a bonding there throughout the generations, and Shoeless Joe Jackson is that caveat between he's the one that is the first player to come back, and there's a scene in that movie too where he goes, I would have played this game for nothing, which no one knows his story. And there's another, remember the line when he said, we invited Ty Cobb to come, but no one liked the son of a bitch when he was alive? There was such great stuff in there. Hey, how about the one guy that says to Costner in the film, one of the old ball players, and he says, you got a cigarette? He goes, no. He goes, yeah, I quit 66 years ago. Boy, could I use a cigarette. I mean, it was so well written. And I don't remember who wrote the film. You need to refresh me on that. How many times have you seen the movie? And of course, it came out in '89, so you're still what? 15
I'm 14.
Years old?
I saw it in theaters. Came out in 1989, so I'm 14 when I see it. This is Phil Alden Robinson, and the writers were W.P. Kinsella and Phil Alden Robinson. So
I heard a story. Don't know how. I'll say it. Don't know how I don't know how true it is. Is that Phil Alden Robinson wrote the script and couldn't get it sold, and he got to the point where how do I say this? He tried to do something to his life, like take it, all right, and he's down and out, and his sister brings him to a Hollywood party because his sister's in the business, and she says, Phil, I want you to meet a guy named Kevin Costner. And Costner goes, I hear you've written the script, gives it to Costner, gets done. That's I've heard that story before in the business, but Phil Alden Robinson had that script. That's why that when you said his name, I remember. I don't know what he's done since then, and if he did anything, if he didn't do anything, that film still to this day I can watch it every single time it comes on. Not many people would say that about films. There's films what? Give me two films you see that you can watch it every time it comes on.
Oh, off the top of my head, Forrest Gump.
Great.
And the first Star Wars movie. Just
yep.
Though, and other ones obviously too. But as far as like all-time greats, that no matter where you are, what time of day, what day of the week, what day of the year, what you're doing, if it comes on TV, you sit down and watch 5 minutes of it, regardless of what scene it is. If it's a film like that where it's an all-time classic and it hits you right in the chest, right in the solar plexus. You're right. This is one of those films that when Field of Dreams comes on, you sit down for 5 minutes and watch a scene or two. It is that time and place for me. 1989. I'm 14 years old. This is also the year, as a kid from Seattle who's 14 in 1989, the year that Ken Griffey Jr. comes up, and he only had like 24, 25 home runs. But if the Michael Jordan Air Jordan logo is Jordan dunking, Ken Griffey Jr.'s swing, his all-time iconic swing, There's a reason why the swing of Ken Griffey Jr. is Ken Griffey Jr.'s logo. All of that's kind of happening at the same time for me. I was not a good baseball player as a kid. This is not a complaint at all. I have 20/20 vision to this day, so I am completely happy with my vision. But I have very poor depth perception, and you have to have good depth perception to be a good baseball player, to be able to hit and throw a tiny ball and hit a round ball with a round surface with a baseball bat. So I was not a good baseball player as a kid, but I have always loved baseball as a fan, and all of that kind of comes together for me. Being able to watch Field of Dreams with my dad and my mom and my sister in theaters in 1989, seeing this all-time Kevin Costner classic, James Earl Jones, the whole weird, the idea of a farmer plowing under his crops and then going on a road trip to go get Darth Vader. It's a weird thing seeing a young Ray Liotta, pre-cocaine Ray Liotta playing a guy, seeing him play Shoeless Joe, another, kind of a flawed character. Great casting, top to bottom. It's also, time and place for me where, for me in my life, the emotions that I have for Field of Dreams. It's one of those films that I'm glad they never did a sequel to, although I'm sure it probably was one of those things that Kevin Costner held in his back pocket in case his career went down the tubes. He could probably do a Field of Dreams sequel at some point. Thankfully, he never did, and he's never had to. But all of those reasons, time and place, as well as the quality of the film, and even that last shot of the film where they have all of the the people will come, right. The payoff to that speech is a thing they did on film, not digital, in real life. They actually have the real life farm in Iowa where they built the actual farms. There's two of them where they built the baseball field. They actually have a helicopter shot at the magic hour, which lasts they only had 3 takes of this, and they had a local radio station run a contest that says, "Hey, you want to be in a Kevin Costner movie? Come over here at this date and this time." So they really did have thousands of cars in real life lined up on those county roads. And what they found out was that because they only had 15 minutes to get a couple of takes, and this is a helicopter shot too, so they have to coordinate a helicopter taking off to get the shot of all of those cars coming to the Kinsella farm. They figured out that the cars have to remain stationary, and to fake the movement of the cars driving, they had the people in their cars, the real life people in their real life cars, just flash their lights to fake that they're moving. So all of that iconic last shot, paying off the James Earl Jones speech, that brilliant filmmaking, all of that is why it's number 1 on my list. Any other thoughts on Field of Dreams?
No, we hit it all. We hit the nail on the head. Again, it's one of those films if it comes on before I take my nap to go to work, I'll watch it.